What's up, guys? Colin here from Happiness U. This is the first episode in a video series where I'm going to be reviewing self-help books, books about human potential, and ones that are really just going to make you happy. The whole reason I started this video series in particular is I feel like there's a lot of bullshit self-help books out there, and I really want to just figure out which ones are good, which ones are worth reading, and which ones have a lot of conflicting information in them. So this hopefully will guide you guys in what you should be reading in 2019 and what's actually going to help you. So not only am I going to review the books themselves, I'm going to try to implement some of the things that are in the books so that I can also give you guys feedback on how helpful the advice that the authors are giving actually is and how much it can apply to real life. So without further ado, our first book that I'm going to be reviewing, I just finished a couple days ago. It is called The Little Book of Hygge. It's written by Mike Viking. And Mike, I think I'm saying that right. He's the CEO of the Happiness Research Institute in Copenhagen. The reason I think I was drawn to this book is because Denmark is consistently ranked one of the happiest countries in the world. I kind of wanted to understand more about this concept that everybody I've heard about. It's kind of a popular buzzword maybe right now in the happiness community. And that is hygge. What is hygge? Hygge is the Danish concept of coziness, but it doesn't directly translate to coziness. There's actually a lot of different elements involved. In many ways, hygge is actually an aesthetic that you're creating within your home or within different social spaces. So there's an emphasis on a lot of candles. Lighting is a big part of it. Food, books, ceramics. But one of the biggest points in the book is that it's about social connections and actually connecting with people. But I think one of the most important things about hygge is that it relies on other people. It relies on your social connections. And I think we've heard that time and time again. We're social creatures. We can't get by without other people. And I think hygge is sort of the Danes' way of getting together in a meaningful way that makes you savor this present moment that we're having together. And so with that, it's also based around a lot of activities, bike rides, potlucks with friends, movie nights, or even just drinking coffee or tea by the fireplace. It's actually so ingrained in the Danish culture that it's reflected in a lot of the elements of architecture and interior design in Copenhagen and around Denmark. So after reading the book, and even as I was reading the book, I started to understand hygge because I started experiencing it in my own life, in my own household. My mom is obsessed with lighting candles all over the house, so my mom would be cooking dinner. There's all these candles, low lighting, and I thought it was just really cool because it's sort of that feeling that I used to get around Christmas time where everything was just so cozy and it was cold outside, but we're inside and we're together and there's nothing else to do except really just soak in this moment and be with each other. That was really cool. Being able to see those moments in my own life, I think was really just a testament to the concept itself. It was also really interesting when I started to compare some of the elements mentioned in the book to things that I already understood about mindfulness. And one of the things about hygge that is interesting is that it's about all five senses. So there's the visual aspect where you might be cradled up in a little nook in your house and just looking out a window and you feel really safe inside. You're curled up with a blanket, whatever. There's the touch element of it. You have these organic feeling things, old antique wooden tables, animal furs or hides, ceramic teapots. There's also a sound element as well. So if you're sitting by the fireplace, you can listen to that crackling of the fire. And that, I think, is one of the most interesting things as it relates to mindfulness. The reason for that is that those sounds and those visual elements combined tend to lull us into a sense of mindfulness and presence. It grounds us in something. You hear the rain and the thunder from a storm outside. You feel safer. At the same time, you're focusing on the sounds that are going on instead of being inside your own head. And I think a lot of us get inside of our own heads a lot. Hygge, I think, is just one of those elements of bringing us out into the present moment through our senses. So if you're looking for practical advice on how to bring hygge into your own life, there are actually a lot of really great practical things that they have in the book. This page, for example, I just found it's a hygge wish list. You can see it right here. It's got a bunch of different elements on it. There's the hygge crow, which is basically just a little corner of your house or a little nook where you can cozy up and just enjoy a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and just it could be by yourself or with other people. It's just a really cozy area of the house. Number 2 is a fireplace. So if you have a fireplace in your house, that's great, but honestly, you could just put it on the TV, go to like a YouTube video of just a fire crackling for 3 hours, and you probably get some of the same effects. 3 is candles. 3 is candles. Denmark goes through more candles than any other country in Europe, and I think it's a testament to how they like the lighting in their house and just the flickering of that fire. It's very primal. So it really goes along with the fireplace too. 4 is things made out of wood. I touched on this already. Things made out of wood are the best types of furniture simply because they bring us closer to nature. 5 is nature. So if you are near a window or something like that, it can go along with number 1, which is the Hygge crow. If you want to make a nook, it helps that it is overlooking something that is natural, like a forest or even just a park or even just a tree if you're not around that much stuff. 6 is books. Books are more of just the aesthetic, I think. I don't know that it's necessarily about reading the books, but having that book and having that paper in your hand. Even this book feels amazing, by the way. Normally I don't like the hardback covers, but something about this one just feels really, really good. And it's also just about the visual element of having books on a shelf. You walk in, it's kind of a cozy feeling. You walk into a library, you're able to, cozy up with a book. It's a little bit easier. And even just the smell, I think, right? You have a bunch of books in your house, and that smell of that paper, that fresh printed smell, it's just a great aesthetic to have. 7, of course, I already mentioned this too, ceramics. Again, because it's so organic, it comes from clay, and so having some nice ceramic teapot maybe. 8 is think tactile, which really plays into some of the other elements, because being able to feel that furniture or that ceramics or even the books, feeling it is just as important as seeing it, smelling it, hearing it. It all just goes together. 9 is vintage. This is actually one of the more interesting elements, I think, of Hygge, just because it's something that a lot of us don't really understand, or not really understand, but have experience with. The whole concept behind all these furniture pieces isn't just to have them be closer to nature or have them look a certain way or feel a certain way. A lot of it actually has to do with your own nostalgia created through the different elements within your home. The author actually cited an example of this where he had 2 footstools in his house that were made out of wood, and every time he looks at them, he remembers the time where him and his uncle went out and actually chopped down the tree and carved the footstools themselves. So it's a lot more than just how they look and how they feel. It's about the feeling that you get when you see these different elements. What does it conjure up in you? And finally, just blankets and cushions, just cozy, soft things that are going to make you feel safe. Safety is a huge element of Hygge. So there's a few reasons why I think Denmark is one of the happiest countries consistently in the world. And some of these reasons are cited in the book, but some of them I kind of just got from reading, and it was sort of just an intuitive thing. First reason is that they have a strong social support system. So their social ties in Denmark are extremely strong. They're extremely intimate, and they just have a lot of friendships, and they're close friendships, and there's like a deep level of trust. And that actually goes along with the second thing, which is high levels of trust. I think the author of the book actually said at one point that people would go in to get carry out and leave their children in their strollers outside, which is just unthinkable to do in this country. Third is that they have universal health care and free education, which obviously creates a little bit less of a inequality gap. The Danes also have a great work-life balance. You won't see anyone in Denmark staying at work after 5. That's just really unusual. And if you have kids, it's actually normal to leave at 4 so that you can get them. And everyone's really understanding about that. The Danes also get 5 weeks of vacation a year on average, which I think is a far cry from what we have in the US, where some people won't take any vacation at all throughout the year. Biking is actually another example of why Denmark, I think, is one of the happiest countries in the world. It could be reverse causality, though, because it could be said that happier people want to bike and that, unhappy people wouldn't want to bike. So it wouldn't necessarily be that biking makes you happier. But in the defense of that, there actually have been a few studies that have found evidence that people who commute to work by car and then switch to bike actually exhibited an increased level of happiness. Going along with that is the connection to nature, having a strong connection to nature through the things in their homes, as well as the experiences that they have in social settings. Even though summers aren't that long in Denmark, they're savored. And that goes along with the last point, is savoring and gratitude, and really just expressing, gratitude for what you have today, soaking in the moment, and just telling people around you too that you are grateful for them, expressing that gratitude. If you're wondering how much this book will actually help you, I can tell you that it requires a very specific type of reader. I think that there are a lot of things in this book that are good to try. I think that it's worth trying. How much it's going to help you really just depends on your own commitment to following through on some of these things and just seeing how they work in your life. It's not necessarily a cure-all for everything, just based on the way that American society is versus Denmark society. There's a lot of just inherent disparities, right? Like, you're not going to get universal health care. You're not going to get free education. It's not necessarily going to make you more successful in a business sense or in a financial sense. It might not help you reach your physical peak as well, because to be perfectly honest, there's a lot of things in here that are on the surface very unhealthy. In Denmark, they like savoring a lot of sweets and things that honestly aren't good for you. The funny thing is, Denmark actually doesn't have a longer lifespan than other places in Europe. They're just happier. So just because they're happier doesn't mean that they're going to live longer, because often that happiness comes from indulging in things. Overall, I think I'd give this book a 4 out of 5 stars, mostly because, like I said, it takes a specific type of reader. It's interesting, but sometimes it gets a little repetitive, and I don't even care to count how many times they said the word Hygge or some variation of it. So if you guys are interested in buying this book, you could find it on Amazon. I can put a link below if you guys actually want it. I'll put it on my Facebook. I'll put it on my Instagram. If you guys like this video, please let me know. Please comment. Please share. And I'm going to have more book reviews for you guys coming soon, as well as more content through my podcast, and hopefully more video content coming soon. I actually have one light here that isn't even lit right now. The bulb wasn't working. So I'm working with one light right now and a lot of technical difficulties, but I'm going to have more stuff regardless for you guys. I'm not going to let that slow me down. So thank you guys so much. Stay happy, stay healthy. Take care.